when you are going from one prefix to another within the metric system, sometimes you don't know the relationship. I've been using the metric system a long time, so I know that there are 1,000 micrograms in a milligram. However, you may get that relationship wrong if you're just trying to remember it. Many people do, unless they're using the metric system over and over and over again. So the best thing to do is to use your base unit and the prefix system so that you get your relationship correct. This is an example. How many milligrams is in 23 micrograms? You start with 23 micrograms, and what you're going to do is go from microgram to gram. The relationship is a microgram is 10 to the minus 6 grams, so I have that as my first conversion factor. So I'm going through the base unit now. This actually tells me how many grams I have in 23 micrograms. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go from gram to milligram. I can get my relationship from a prefix with a base unit to a base unit, and then from the base unit to another prefix quite easily. Getting from a prefix with a unit to a prefix with a unit requires a lot of memorization, and you may not get it correctly every time. So this basically is the best way to go from one metric unit to another when you don't know a relationship between the two.
Many times you need to get to do a conversion on a fraction that has a unit in the denominator. For instance, right here, this is a dosage. 2.5 milligrams of a drug per kilogram of the person. And sometimes you have to do a conversion in which you have a unit in the denominator. Always make sure that the fraction that you write to do a conversion on that unit in the denominator has the units cancel out. Notice kilogram is in the denominator here and in the numerator there. Now they cancel out, and you can see what we end up with is milligrams per pound. And so now this dosage goes from being 2.5 milligrams per kilogram of person to 1.1 milligrams per pound of person. And you haven't changed the dosage. All you have done is change the way you've expressed it. Instead of being per kilogram, now it's per pound. But the key thing to know here is that if kilogram is in the denominator here, then it must be in the numerator in the fraction that you are going to be using for conversion. Just remember, this is, I already introduced this idea to you, that a cubic centimeter is equal to a milliliter. So when you have centimeter cubed, you can replace it with milliliter. And it's an expression that I expect you to remember and be able to use. So here are some problems for you to do, and what I'd like you to do is to pause the lecture and try each problem, and then you can resume and we can work through them together. The first thing to do when approaching this problem is to look and see what is the given, and you can see they give you this measurement of 49 meters per second. So you know that per means divided by, and that's going to be a fraction line. So you write 49 meters in the numerator, your fraction line, and then second. Now, an excellent technique for solving problems like this is to put what you want your answer to be at the end of your math. So we want our answers in kilometer per hour, so what we're going to do is put that as the fraction that we want to get to. So you can see now, looking at what we have on this page, you can see we're going to go from meter to kilometer, and we're going to go from second to hour. So it's two different conversions. So you just pick one and start. It doesn't matter which one you pick with. You might have decided to start with meter, you might have decided to start with seconds. It doesn't matter. Just pick one and start doing your conversion. So I'm going to pick meters as the first thing to start. The first thing I want to do is make sure I get unit cancellation. Remember, focus on the units, the most important thing to do. So here we have meter in the numerator and meter in the denominator, and it's going to kilometer. So you can see with this fraction, I've just accomplished going from meter to kilometer, so I've gotten that part finished. The units that result from this, notice meter cancels out, meter cancels out, and what do we get? We get kilometer over second. But we want kilometers over hour. So the next thing that we need to do is have a fraction that takes us from seconds to hours. So I know I can do seconds to minutes, and I could do minutes to hour. And so if you look at this, let's just look and see how the units work out now, because we have to focus on units first of all. Meter and meter cancel out. That leaves us with kilometer. That's what we need over here. Then seconds, and over here, seconds cancel out. Minutes and minutes cancel out. And what do we end up with? Hour. So the units that we have when we get through with all of this math is kilometers per hour, just what we want. But now we have to figure out the numbers. Well, you know how to do that. Let's just figure out what's the relationship between kilometers and meters and seconds and minutes and hours, and make sure our fractions are equal to 1, and we'll get the math right. So first of all, kilometer to meter. Kilo equals 1,000. So I just then put meter after kilo and meter after 1,000. You need to write out that equal statement. I know how to do it just from my head, but you need to be writing that kilometer equals 1,000 meter as an equal statement by starting with kilo equals 1,000 and writing meter after kilo and meter after 1,000. Then, how do I make this fraction equal to 1? Well, you might just say to yourself in your head, 60 seconds equals 1 minute. Well, right there it tells you where you need to put your 60. It's 60 seconds equals 1 minute. Right there. How many minutes are in an hour? Well, again, the number that you need here is based on 60 minutes equals 1 hour. So just place 60 minutes an hour. You do the math. How do you do that math? 49 in the numerator divided by 1,000 in the denominator times 60 in the numerator times 60 in the numerator, and the number that you should come up with on your calculator is 176. Next, we're going to go from liters to, from centimeters, the dimension of a box in centimeters, to liters. Well, to figure out how to do this, the first thing I need to do is multiply the dimensions times each other, and that gives me 9,120 centimeters cubed. To do this problem, you need to remember that a milliliter is the same thing as a centimeter. So you can just write centimeter goes to milliliter. Once you have milliliter, then you know you can go from milliliter to liter. How is it that I do that? Well, I have to make sure that my fraction is equal to 1. Well, this fraction is equal to 1 automatically because a milliliter is a centimeter. What about the next fraction? Well, milli equals 0.001, so milliliter equals 0.001 liter, or you can write 10 to the minus 3. We do the math, and it ends up giving us 9.12 liters.